Con with David Propose. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
So, you have been setting off like a wildfire lately. You've been doing Space Ghost, you've done Venomverse, Savage Avengers. What's it been like from the shoot off to doing all these new titles?
Oh boy, I feel really fortunate. Busy is the best word you can be as a freelancer, and I feel really fortunate to be able to work with such amazing creative teams and such great characters. So yeah, it's been. I feel it's been really cool to be working on books like Space Ghost, Captain Planet, Cable of Chrome, and Speed Racer that's coming out later this year. So yeah, what's great is all the books feel very different. So I'm able to flex different muscle groups with each book. So yeah, I certainly am sleeping a lot less. But doing shows like this, it's really rejuvenating. And it's just so nice to get to see all the fans and see how much they've been responding to the books.
So with Space Ghost, and this is what I always ask about IP. When someone does an IP book, obviously the proprietors, Warner Brothers, are kind of defensive about some of their IP, but I'm curious, with Hanna-Barbera and having such a legacy, was there any okay, you can do this, but you can't have him do this?
Honestly, Warner Brothers has been the best licensor I've ever worked with by a tremendous margin. They have been super supportive. They've given us a ton of latitude on Space Ghost and Captain Planet.
Yeah.
I can name on one hand the number of very surface level notes I've gotten in Space Ghost. One of them was can we give a character have him exclaim something that sounds a little space-like, or Zorak's stabbing this guy. Could we have the blood be a silhouette instead of full-on blood?
Yeah. I was curious because I think one of the best takes is making Zorak like a religious fanatic.
Yeah, I pitched him as the Charles Manson of space. I wanted to kind of differentiate him a little bit from Joker. And I like the fact that he had his followers, in the cartoon, and so I was kind of all right, what is a really alien perspective on something, and it's the fact that he believes in something so deeply that feels so alien to anything that Space Ghost would ever experience. And I also liked, what do they say? Hitchcock talked about how tension is two people are sitting at a table and there's a bomb underneath and they don't know what it is, but you do.
Yeah.
So having Zorak worship Lokar, the mythical locust of the apocalypse, and Space Ghost spends all this time saying, that's not real, you're a madman, Lokar's just a myth. But anyone who knows Space Ghost and knows that mythology knows Lokar is real. That was a really fun beat to kind of throw those characters in. But Warner Brothers has been an amazing partner with this, as has Dynamite. They've really given me and Jonathan Lau an incredible amount of latitude. And I think that's really allowed us to deliver our best work.
Yeah. So, what is some characters you would love to write for, because you bounced on both sides of the fence, Marvel and DC. Is there anyone I want this? I want to do, this is if I can die happy knowing I did this.
Doctor Strange, write your congressman.
Jim's just said Doctor Strange.
I would love to do Doctor Strange. War Machine, I would love to do something with. Force Works would be fun. Secret Avengers, that's just on the Marvel side of things. DC, it's funny, I started my career as an intern at DC, but I have not done any work with them since my internship. I would love to do some work at DC. The Flash is amazing. Firestorm would be cool.
I was kind of thinking, he'd be really good on Swamp Thing.
Yeah, that would be fun. Etrigan the Demon is one. That's a deep cut that I would love to do.
You really think that's a hard character to write?
Oh no,
especially with rhyming everything at the line.
Yes, that part is difficult. That's a bridge I get to when I get there. I think DC, that's a fun universe. I would love to do a teen book. I love writing teen books. I'm getting to do that a little bit in Captain Planet. That's really fun.
Yeah, it was. I actually wanted to ask. I really want to know, when you got Captain Planet, when you got him, what was kind of the thought process? Because obviously, in the world we're living in now, obviously that's a lot of big stuff. And I was curious, was there a moment where it was all right, these morals, it's we're past the point of no return. Are we going to see a more haggard Captain Planet? Because it's if you just came, because I know this is a reboot.
Yeah.
But so I'm just kind of thinking, is this man, what am I even fighting for?
No. If anything, Captain Planet is a symbol of hope. I see him right in the same pantheon as Superman and Captain Planet. That series is so interesting to me because I actually lobbied to write that book. I've been wanting to write Captain Planet for 10 years. When we announced it, it was literally the day before my 10-year anniversary of telling my best friend somebody should relaunch Captain Planet. So I've been carrying this torch for a very long time, and I think it's because it's a character that he really is. He's the hero of the moment. 10 years ago, he felt like the hero of the moment. You know, he's got this inherently multicultural, diverse cast. It feels a lot like the Claremont era X-Men.
Yeah.
You know, they're tackling climate change and environmental disasters, stuff that we're seeing. I lived through Hurricane Sandy in New York. I lived through the wildfires in LA. My parents are in the Midwest. They had record freezing temperatures. That's just in the continental U.S. You know, this is not a hypothetical the way that it was in 1989. This is happening now. And the other side of that coin is that it's human greed that's fueling all this. It's sort of the rich and powerful who will do anything to consolidate their wealth and power, and they don't really care who kind of gets crushed in the meantime. And that's something that I think we can all really relate to in the year 2025.
Yeah.
And so I've had this idea in the back of my head for 10 years. I certainly did not expect for it to be quite as timely as it was. I was like, oh, Lucian Blunder is throwing a Nazi salute at the inauguration. That's the sort of stuff that I wish it wasn't so timely. But on the other hand, I feel like a real responsibility that this is not a series that's intended to make people give up on hope. Quite the opposite. Captain Planet's whole thing is the power is yours. This is the Planeteers' story. These are 5 ordinary people granted extraordinary powers, and the lesson they learn is that people on the ground, we have the power to change things. We have the power to save our planet, and it's going to take the collective action of people on the ground if we're ever going to try to solve this. So, and make things better for our future generations. So that's something I'm really excited to get into, and to really kind of show the growth of this concept. When it debuted in 1989, things were very different. The historical and global political shift has been pretty dramatic in the 36 years since Captain Planet first debuted. And so, Linka debuted in the Soviet Union in 1989. She has gone from being the most conservative Planeteer in the original cartoon. She's now actually the most liberal. She's sort of a band akin to the Pussy Riot in Russia, an environmental activist band. And so she's the one who's championing all this from the start. And meanwhile, Wheeler is an auto worker from Detroit, so he's got a very complicated relationship with green technology. We changed his location.
Okay, he's from Brooklyn.
But we made it. I wanted to make him from Detroit because he's somebody who's got real stakes in all of this. That's somebody who his livelihood has been impacted by all of this, and it's so easy for him to blame the activists and all this when it's really it's the millionaires.
It's the guy he works for.
It's the guy he works for. And so Wheeler is a really important character in this series because it's his character arc that we follow him as he realizes the Planeteers' mission matters. It's something that this is a responsibility that we all share. But seeing characters like that, Kwame, super fun, sort of Cyclops meets Sam from Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
I guess the biggest question, a lot of Mati. How is Mati going to be played off?
Mati is probably the most fun revision of the whole series because I am fully aware that Mati has been seen as a punchline.
That's what,
and that is, we're not doing that for Mati. Mati grew up in Brazil, and he's an indigenous person in Brazil, where indigenous people are not always treated very well, especially if they live near mining colonies. So he's experienced a lot of violence and hardship in his life, and it would be very easy for him to kind of succumb to that rage and that anger and that righteous feeling of retribution. But he's been given the power of heart, and it's cleansed his heart, and now he's a pacifist. But he's sort of like the pacifist who could absolutely wreck you. He's by far the most dangerous member of the team. He's sort of our Batman or Shang-Chi.
That's right.
But also the power of heart. Everybody says, "What is the power of heart?" I'm like, "Oh, it's tactical telekinesis or tactical telepathy." And you can do a lot with that. You can summon animals. You can link into people's minds. You can kind of read their thoughts. There's a lot. Mati is probably the most versatile of the Planeteers, and that's on top of the fact that his ring houses Captain Planet's consciousness.
That is a great.
That's the best way to describe it.
Now we've talked about heroes. Let's talk about the villains of Captain Planet.
Sure.
And I have to ask, what is one villain you were excited to write for?
Oh, Lucian Plunder is super fun. He's been really fun. Argos Leak is sort of his right-hand man, so he's been kind of like the guy on the ground. Duke, I'm actually writing Duke Nukem right now.
I personally am looking forward to Verminion Scum.
Scum we're keeping in the back pocket for a little while.
I knew he was going to be like a writer.
Yeah, we're keeping him in the back pocket for potential future adventures. Same with Hawkish Greedley, because those are just two really iconic characters. But we'll see. We'll see Plunder. We'll see Ghost League. We'll see Dr. Blight. We will see Duke Nukem. And there's one other villain that we'll keep in the back pocket, but it will tie the whole thing together in a really fun way.
Going back to your space coach.
Sure.
Because I wanted to know, this is one of the Hanna-Barbera heroes that my father grew up watching.
Yeah.
If it was possible, could we see a team up with another Hanna-Barbera
Man,
hero?
I would love to. Well, so they're doing Space Quest, team up with Johnny Quest, Joe Casey and Sebastian Perez, who did the Johnny Quest miniseries. They are doing that team up book. I've read the first 3 scripts. They're fantastic. Joe Casey is doing an amazing job. And I've read the first issue completely. And Sebastian is such a talented artist, so he's doing these characters a lot of justice. I would love to do a Space Ghost team up. I've been pitching Space Ghost and Herculoids for quite a while. I would love to do a Space Stars revival with the 2 of them and the Teen Force. Write your congressman, tell them you want it. I would love to make that happen. I could write another 10 to 12 issues of that if they let me. So that is the power is yours, and the power is Warner Brothers.
We wouldn't want to keep it big.
Her arm's getting tired.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
But thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
This was great, and we can't wait to see what you're going to do with Captain Planet, and have a good time in your planet.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, man. Enjoy your show.
Can we get a picture with
Let's
you?
do it.